You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholic, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a trunk, just like Jim. It's more than life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more than life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club, like some bottles, and press them guns. It's more than life.
Fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And who dat? And we got some main course. There's quite a bit of main course. I haven't been on here for a Saints podcast in a little while, so due to training camp and that first preseason game coming up, we got some news and notes and stuff. It's just piling up, and there's something really exciting going on today. I'm sure, like right after I get off of here, the conclusion of it will happen. But we'll get into that more when we get in once we get through some of this other stuff. You know, some of this older news and notes that have kind of come down through preseason training camp. You know, we're in the middle of training camp, like in the heat of it. But anyways, let's get into this because there's a lot to get into. I know I fall off a little bit sometimes with these with these Saints podcast, but there's no lack of news going on now, so there's really no excuse not to do a podcast. But this is going to be a good one because there is tons of notes. But before I get too far into that, and before we ask for our menu, I just want to shout out two new subscribers I had recently. I don't know if you're a bot or you just don't have your own channel, but I appreciate the subscription regardless. And if I could call you out or get you in my comment section, I give you a shout out. But yeah, I really appreciate the two new subscribers. I appreciate it a lot when people subscribe, like, comment, share, any of that. It really boosts me up. There ain't nothing more exciting than watching a video, get 100+ views and get a couple subscribers drop in there with it, and maybe get some good input from some of the hoodats out there. But yeah, so I just want to shout those people out. If you're still listening, I appreciate it. Appreciate those two new subscribers, and we're trying to get to that 80. We're trying to get to 80 now. But anyways, so I appreciate that. But let's get into this now. So can I get a menu? And so the first thing I want to get into here is about all of the injuries. I know it's just like the first was like, I guess we're going into the second week of training camp here, and the first preseason game is Saturday at 7 p.m. Central, I do believe. But man, it just seems like the the injuries are kind of piling up here. Let's see. I have a good list of all of them. If I can find them now. Okay. So, but it's still early in the off season, and hopefully, the Saints maybe have learned from their past, 2021 past 2-3 seasons under the past 2 seasons under Dennis Allen's. Maybe they've learned that maybe they should be a little bit more cautious with injuries in the off season. Like, there's really no reason to force your players to play in a preseason game, or force them to practice when they're a little nicked up during the off season. It's different once the regular season starts. So these injuries will be more concerning then as well. But let me just go through it. But preseason and practice right now is not that important, and I still got 4 or 5 weeks before actual regular season. So if these are just little nicks and cuts and bruises, just let these guys rest. But this is a long list. I did posted a while back, but the Saints, man, it feels like they're already injury bug bit. but maybe they'll get all these injuries. Uh, uh, Maybe they'll just get them all out of the way now. Would be nice. But let's just go through this here. So there's misses for this would have been on some of the stuff coming in from like Tuesday, but so we're hearing that these were just so got Demario Davis. He's nicked up, which is surprising because he's such an Iron Man. And you got wide receiver Equinemius St. Brown, who was working off to the side with some trainers, and then still sidelined. We got cornerback Marshawn Lattimore. Like, what's new there? And then Adebo hurt, which that's concerning. Your two starting corners, but you got a pretty good secondary building, and it may get even better here in the coming days and maybe just in the coming hours. Hopefully, right after I post this, our secondary will get even better. But it's good to get some young work in there for your guys like Alante Taylor and Kool-Aid McKinstry, and then linebacker Pete Warner and Jalen Ford, the rookie from Texas, and then wide receiver Rashid Shaheed and Bud Memes, and then Kendra Miller he's kind of like the same story as Lattimore. Like what's new? But I think the big difference there is if he doesn't get his stuff together, he may not even be on this team. And then kind of the same story, same draft cast, same kind of story with the guard Salvadari, and then defensive end Jeff Coates and Shane Luminex. And then I think there was just recently, just in practice not too long ago, and this is kind of a disappointing thing to kind of hear because you've been seeing a lot of Mason Tipton making some big catches and catching deep balls from Spencer Rattler, which pretty exciting. But how I guess he left today on Wednesday, August 7th, 2024, with a hamstring injury. So man, it just keeps piling up, and then you got guys that you think are getting in some extra work because of these injuries being out, and then those guys that are getting that extra work end up getting hurt and stuff. But there's just something constantly to worry about with the Saints, is that they're always injury stricken and injury cursed. There's nothing new, but like I said earlier, hopefully they're just being super cautious because of past history that they've had under Dennis Allen, and hopefully they just kind of get all this out of the way now would be really nice. And man, just a relatively healthy season from the majority of the starters would be really nice. Even though they've already lost players like Tano Passanio, who's a great depth player. I've already lost him for the season. Same, I guess it had been a while since I've been on here. So yeah, I lost Tano Passanio. He's pretty much on IR. I think he ruptured his Achilles or tore his ACL. Either way, he's pretty much done. And then Ryan Ramczyk, his career is probably pretty much over because of his knee issues. They did the surgery on it, and thought they were real negative and not very positive about his knee. And then he had the surgery on it, and then they sounded positive as if the surgery went well. And then a couple months later, they're like, yeah, we think he's pretty much done. We're just gonna go ahead and put him on IR now. And that just like ended his season. So they're already losing some players, a starter and Ryan Ramczyk, right tackle, and then pretty much like a rotational. It gets enough snaps to be almost like a starter. Because he can play Tano Passanio, because he can play defensive end, defensive tackle. But yeah, that's let's hope for be more healthy from here on out would be nice. But those are the injuries. I'll probably find some more to go over here, but when going over the depth chart. But they've released their first depth chart, and let's just kind of swing through it real quick about anything that seems kind of catches my eye at all. So So when just start with the offense here. So wide receivers, nothing too surprising there. You know, your two starters, Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave, and then A.T. Perry is probably like your three guys. But then you like the fourth guy on the depth chart is like Michael Jacobson. Like that's a tight end. Sorry about that. It's Cedric Wilson. So I guess he's like a somewhat of a veteran receiver. So I guess I can understand that a little bit. But then like probably fourth on, well, it'd be fifth on the list. You got Bud Memes, and then I'm surprised when looking at this depth chart. I guess it doesn't matter now because he's got a hamstring injury, but Mason Tipton is all the way down like this what is it? Be like the seventh or eighth option there, which is kind of surprising. And I'm I'm disappointed that we won't get to see uh, him and Spencer Rattler hook up in the preseason against the Cardinals. So that's wide receiver, and then tight end. It's looking pretty bad when Foster Monroe and Michael Jacobson are your one and two at tight end. I don't know. The Saints are working their wrist in free agency at some other positions on defense. Maybe they need to work something out with the tight end, and obviously we know the offensive line is just not looking great when you're having to. It looks like you're going to end up with three, probably more than likely, three new starters on the offensive line. But the one that's kind of like it's even highlighted here on the depth chart is Alicio Fuanga. He's already up there as your starter for your left tackle, which is a little surprising, even though I mean, I mean Landon Young and uh, Udo Oli Udo aren't better than him. So I mean, it's just might as well just get it over with, I guess. And then they got Trevor Penning. They got him as your right tackle, which well, I guess we'll see how that plays out, and if whether Landon Young or Oli Udo uh, end up ended up getting fit in there uh, maybe before week one, or maybe and if it ain't before week one, it end up being after week one if Trevor Penning just kind of implodes. And then you got Eric McCoy and Cesar Ruiz, which are your good starters, you know, quality starters from last year. And then you got Lucas Patrick, who is your backup center and your starting guard at the moment because what Salvadori's injured, so you can't even get a look at he was the third or fourth round pick from last year. You can't even get like a look at him because he's just never healthy. So yeah, with Trevor Penning possibly starting, Trevor Penning and Lucas Patrick and Talisi Fuanga starting on the offensive line for this coming year. Got me a little concerned. That's probably where my biggest concern is right now. That and that and tight end. And then let's see. So that's kind of your offensive line and your skills players. And then we have Alvin Kamara here, and the running backs. You got Alvin Kamara, Jamal Williams, and Kender Miller is actually your third option, even though he's not healthy. He's never healthy. I would say you're more than likely third option, especially in preseason. We'll probably get to see a lot of him is Jordan Mims. And then fullback Adam Prentice, nothing too exciting there. And then you got your quarterback. So that listing is somewhat interesting because you have Derek Carr as your starter. Then you have Jake Hayner still edging out, I guess, Spencer Rattler. And then you got Spencer Rattler ahead of Taysom Hill. And that was something that was kind of interesting when I look back at the depth chart real quick, because they don't have Taysom Hill listed as a tight end like they did last year, and they have Jawan Johnson. He's all the way like off the depth chart right now because he's hurt. So yeah, that's kind of weird that they just saved Taysom Hill for being the fourth quarterback instead of like a wide receiver or a fullback or a tight end. So, but that's the offense. I see onto the defense here, which it's not really, there's nothing really changed about it. Even from last year, they're pretty much the same defense. Because you got a defensive end, you got right defensive end, you got Carl Granderson, or it actually says or Chase Young. So they're wanting Chase Young to be a starter with the same amount of snaps as him as Carl Granderson and Cameron Jordan, and then behind them in the slotted in the two slots, you got Isaiah Foskey at right defensive end and Peyton Turner at left defensive end, and then Nick Lalos and Jeff Coat. And then in defensive tackle, which this was a little bit surprising that this didn't have like the either or like option at defensive tackle, because you just have your defensive tackle Colin Saunders and then Nathan Shepard, which I would have thought that there would have been he would have just been an outright starter over those guys, or it would have been like either or, kind of like with Granderson and Young, and that's Brian Brucey, who's easily their best defensive tackle, at least their best pass rushing defensive tackle. He was nicked up a couple days ago as well, so maybe that's why, or maybe they just feel it. Maybe he needs to get better against the run or something. And then you got Christian Boyd in there, and then some guys that probably won't even make the team. And then linebacker, nothing's really changed there. It's just Pete Warner at the will, Demario Davis at the middle linebacker, and then you got Willie Gay. The new that's really the only change like on the defense, I guess, besides Chase Young as players that could end up seeing a lot of time in this defense. And then see, you have at Sam, you have Jalen Ford, who was your rookie. That's a player you drafted out of Texas. He's been hurt, so that probably accounts for it. But he's like your third or fourth string, like outside linebacker. And then you got Nephi Sewell on here, who I think he's working back from season injury from last year. And then you got Aljala Ojari, Fernie Ojari, and then you got DeMarco Jackson behind Demario Davis at middle linebacker. And then on to the secondary, which I think this will be the best group on the Saints this year. Is their secondary will be the best secondary, and might end up being a top 5 secondary in the league. And there's a few moves, shaking and moving that they can do to make it even better. But we'll just talk about what it is right now. So at your left corner spot, you got Paulson Adebo, and then you got behind him you have Alante Taylor, and then at the right corner spot you got Marshawn Lattimore, and then behind him you got Kool-Aid McKinstry, and then Hugo Amadi. So no real surprises there. I'm a little surprised that they didn't move Marshawn Lattimore like towards the end of the depth chart and highlight him in red like they did Juwan Johnson, because he's not healthy right now. Got a hip flexor or something like that, just some random injury. And then so those are your corners, and then your strong safety is Jordan Howden and Jonathan Abrams, and then JT Gray, who's more of a special team player. And then you have free safety Tyron Matthews and Will Harris. So those are your safeties. I like Jordan Howden, and he wears 31 like someone else we know wears 31. So I'm gonna be interested if this free agent move that we might make, if he gives up his number or not. So that's the offense and the defense. And then the secondary, or not the secondary, but the special teams. You have Lou Headley still, and he's I guess Matthew Hayball is. I'm not really hearing much coming out of camp that there's any kind of competition at the punting spot. Like Lou Headley, he wasn't great at times, but he wasn't terrible, I guess. So I guess we'll see what he looks like, I guess, in his second season. And then I think there probably kind of is a competition at kicker. You got Blake Groupie, who was the starter last year and was a rookie, and then you got Charlie Smith from the UK coming over here, who just I almost look at them as like equals. You know, they're both good kickers and have big legs, but they're just kind of inconsistent. And that's something that they've been inconsistent at is actually kicking shorter kicks. Like they've been kicking 50, 60-yard field goals, but then they missed extra points and kicks from like 40 yards in, which is, that's kind of stuff that can kill you as a team and kill you in a game. And as a fan, just, just suck the life out of you losing a game or not being able to tie a game because your kicker can't make like a less than 50-yard field goal. And then long snapper, you got the worst rating, worst overall rating player in Madden. You guys again, Zach Woods. Zach Woods, he can't get any respect. And then punt returners, which I'll be interested to see how this plays out because when you do, so you got punt returners and Rashid Shaheed and Mason Tippin, but I'm talking about kick returners. What that'll look like because I thought the XFL style kick return on in the preseason game against the Bears, that preseason game, Bears Texans. I just thought that it just didn't look right. I know they're maybe not show no team is like showing their hand of what they'll actually try to do in the regular season, but Rashid Shaheed, I think with the kickoff rule, you actually will have two returners back there. So you got Rashid Shaheed and Jamal Williams, which is kind of an interesting option for that because he's not really that fast, and I wouldn't even say he was really that good of a running back last year. So, but maybe they just don't have any other options. But that's the first kind of peek at the depth chart here. I definitely would like it if they would bring in someone notable for the offensive line. But really, the thing is, there just aren't any good offensive free agent offensive linemen left. There hardly ever is, really. Even during the start of free agency, it's very, very rare that a quality offensive lineman ends up getting traded or is able to enter free agency with no strings attached. So hopefully it's just not terrible. If it could just improve a little bit from last year would be nice. And then let's see, Marquez Callaway, he's back, so that's kind of nice. A familiar face in that, but yeah. So that's your first depth chart. Uh, Hopefully it'll be tinkered with a little bit after the three preseason games and after teams do their cut downs from like 90 to 53, and then there's a bunch of players out there. Maybe they'll find someone that they feel is a better option. All right, so that is that is that is your first depth chart. So now moving on to how they could, I'm talking about how they could add some players and tinker with it and make their secondary even better than it probably already is. It's going to be the best group on the team, I believe already, and maybe it could be even with just who they have. Is probably going to be if they're healthy, especially if Marshawn Lattimore is healthy, they're easily going to be a top 10 secondary. But there's a move that they're looking to make and talking about making that could take them to top 5, top 3. And what I'm talking about is, and this is something you've heard kind of murmurs about this from different Saints media people and just people on social media saying like there aren't really any good free agents left. Like the only good free agent left is only good free agent left is Justin Simmons, and and that the Saints need a little bit more depth. It'd be a little bit of a risk going into the season with just Jordan Howden, who's just a second year pro, and Tyrann Mathieu, who's older, who possibly run into some injuries. So just adding some depth wouldn't hurt. And so, yeah, it looks like the Saints are actually going to have Justin Simmons. I think they probably have already had him in because they were going to have him in on this later this afternoon. They were going to have him in for a visit and actually a workout. So they had him. It's kind of different. It seems kind of pretty serious to me, seeing how it wasn't just like him coming and having a visit like down in New Orleans, but he's coming all the way out to Irvine, California, to do a visit and do a workout and stuff. So I was pretty geeked, pretty pumped about the possibility of this happening because over the last 5 years, you could easily say that Justin Simmons has been one of the best safeties in the league, and he's mostly been a free safety. But I don't think obviously he wouldn't come in and start over Tyrann Matthews. They list Tyrann Matthews and they list Justin Simmons as free safety, but they can really play either position. They can do everything well, and they're both just ball hawks. Uh, I think both of them have led the league in interceptions over the last 5 years. I think they're like 1 and 2, and Justin Simmons was a Pro Bowler last year, which is kind of wild as to why no team has signed him or the Broncos didn't bring him back because he played in 15 games, so he's been a little bit injury prone over the last 2 years. He only played in 12 in 2022. But over those 2 seasons, he had 9 interceptions. He had 6 in 2022 and 3 in 2023. And then in 2023, he had 8 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles, fumble recovery, and a sack, 70 tackles, 53 solos, 17 assists, two tackles for loss. So yeah, I mean he's a ball hawk. And the Saints need every bit of that they can get, even though they were pretty good at taking the ball away last year. But any little bit can help. And so the reason I'm kind of confident about this is that he's familiar with Joe Woods, and Marcus Robinson. Joe Woods was the defensive coordinator in Denver, and Marcus Robinson was the defensive back coach for like the first couple years, and when Justin Simmons was drafted. So and I think he's good buddies with Will Harris as well. So there's a lot of positives, as to why he would probably want to come and sign here, just because he's familiar with everything, and can't really say like maybe he'd want to come here to play for a winning team or a contender with the way the condition that the Saints are in right now, but you could say he could be wanting to come and play for an elite defense, play for a really good defense at least. And with the Kansas City Chiefs on the Saints roster, that it would be nice to have Justin Simmons, because if you can find some highlights where it looks like hell, half of Justin Simmons' career interceptions are off of Patrick Mahomes. So that would be nice if the Saints end up signing him, which Quandre Diggs just signed a contract for like five million. I'm trying to think. Where he went. Oh, he went to the Titans for just like 5 million. But I've seen some people like thinking that Justin Simmons is going to want closer to like 8-10 million on a 1 year deal or something, which I don't think the safety market is like good enough for that. But if the Saints sign him, I'm going to say for 8 or less, and this is maybe just like all he does. This is kind of like CJ Spiller having the game winner against the Dallas Cowboys all those years ago. Like if the Saints signed Justin Simmons and in the game against the Kansas City Chiefs this year has an interception off of Patrick Mahomes, then it was worth it. That's kind of how I'm looking at this. But yeah, so that's exciting, and I'm sure right after I post this and get off of here, the conclusion for this will come out. Dennis Allen says that they've been in communication with his party for a while. They've been talking and been interested in Justin Simmons. This is just the first time they've brought him in, and he says I think he also said something about how he likes Jordan Howden, but basically his job is not guaranteed. Like he's not just going to be handed the job. So that sounds like uh, Dennis Allen wants some more experience and just more depth at safety is what that sounds like to me. But I was super geeked about this. You know, the Saints didn't really make any big moves, uh, any real big moves, I guess, in free agency. Not in early free agency. They didn't. They got Chase Young later in the offseason, and he's looked really good. He's like making the Saints offensive line look bad every time you see any clips of him highlighting. And he's just been, I think they consider him probably so far, as long as he's healthy right now, as their best pass rusher, at least in training camp. He's been a training camp stud, but I don't know if that's more telling of him being a good player or the Saints offensive line just being garbage. I'd probably lean towards the latter. That they're just garbage. But yeah, I'd probably weigh those kind of as the same. Uh, uh, if they do get the Justin Simmons signing, kind of similar to the Chase Young signings. Besides the fact that Justin Simmons is overall in his career has been a better player and been more consistent and been healthier until the last couple seasons where he has missed 6 games over the last 2 seasons, but only 15 last year. But yeah, so there's a lot going on with the Saints. You know, it's enough just to follow the new who's injured, who's newly added to the injury report, uh, but then watching highlights in the training camp, and now there's a little bit of rustling in free agency. But man, there's a lot going on. There's not a lack of news, and the Saints play Cardinals on Saturday in a prime time. Even though at least where I'm at, it's blacked out, so I'll have to maybe find it somewhere else to watch it. And only real notes coming out of the Cardinals, I guess Kyler Murray is not going to play in that game, but that's not a real surprise. But I'm excited for the preseason in general, just to get to see Jake Haynard and Jake Haynard and Spencer Rattler is going to be fun. This is going to be one of the funnest preseasons in a long time. I heard people like talking about like how that the Saints haven't had, like, it's been so long since they've had like talented young quarterbacks on their team. And when I heard people making that statement, I was thinking, like, have they ever really had a talented young quarterback on their team? In their entire history, I don't think they really ever have had a talented rookie quarterback on their team. But they may have two with Jake Haynard and especially Spencer Rattler, who I think just talent wise and skills and just ability to do it is better than Jake Haener. But you know, it's more. That's not just because you can throw far doesn't make you a good quarterback, essentially. So I'm real excited about them two battling it out. I don't even really care to see uh, Derek Carr. But anyways, I think that's about all I have for you. So who dat? And can I get a check, please?